So what can you tell us about the new DVD Blu-ray release? The music, is it remastered? Anything new? Any changes? Where are we at with that?
We'll find out more about that later. First of all, I just want to say I'm Michael Christian. This is Rolly Turbickness, and this is Christopher Carter. And together, we're Dynamic Music Partners. We're going to find out when you find out, because we're going to be there at the panel at 1 o'clock to celebrate that 28th year anniversary of Sub-Zero. So I'm really looking forward to it. They just slipped me an advanced Blu-ray, so I'm very excited. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years.
I know, that scared me. When I first saw that, I said, oh, they did a sequel to it, and then I looked at it further up, and I was like, oh my God, 20 years. This is frightening, but you know, time does move on. And I think it just goes to show how timeless Batman has been.
Yeah.
You've seen, there have been so many different versions of it, from animated to the television series to the movies. We've had so many different actors portray him and voice him, and yet there's a constant to him, even from, you know, Adam West's more campy version to Christian Bale's more serious, dour version. Even the littlest kids know that's Batman, even when they don't see him in the, you know, without the costume, because that's just such a rich universe. Now, you've done quite a few compositions for Batman thing, right?
Yeah, all sorts of different. So, I mean, we've done all of what you just talked about too. I mean, what are the different ones that we've done?
Well, the thing is that Warner Brothers has such a call for quality. Everything that comes out of Warner Animation that we've had the privilege to work on, the stories are great, the artwork is great, and they treat music and the hiring of composers, luckily us, for a lot of animation projects, with true respect. And each thing is like each project is like a theatrical feature film. So I remember when we first started doing our individual films, when Michael did Sub-Zero, I was just floored by just the breathtaking quality of his music. I mean, he had a huge orchestra and a choir. And I mean, this is for an animated, you know, in essence, direct-to-video film. And Chris did a bit later Return of the Joker, and I did Mystery of the Batwoman. And with each of these projects, we've had an opportunity to show our individual voices. And then on most of the series that we do, we work together. Well, we work each in our own studio, but we work together to give each project the most kind of creative energy, all three times as much energy.
And I've noticed that in the recent releases too, Killing Joke, so on. It haunting. I mean, I was almost listening to the music more than the dialogue in certain parts, because they were carrying, you know, like Joker wasn't saying much sometimes, but you could tell just by the music and the tone what was happening, and it was like, this is just really, you know, turn the lights on, this is getting a little too creepy to be watching in the dark stuff. And so what I'm curious about is, obviously we talked earlier about the different tones through the various Batman films. I think most people would say the tone of Batman versus, Batman and Harley Quinn versus The Killing Joke, two entirely different spectrums. How tough is it to do the score and try to have continuity, saying we're staying in the Batman universe, but matching the tone to the subject matter?
It's a welcome challenge, actually, in the same way that the directors and the storyboard artists have to kind of put their own stamp on this new version, or not. It depends how much the producers want to recall an earlier series. But that, for us, is kind of the same thing. We have a discussion with the producer. There may be some unique way that we can add kind of a new twist on it, so it still feels like Batman, but it has its own life. That's in the Killing Joke to Harley Quinn is a really great example of how we can take an established character and lead the story in a completely different color and direction. We love it.
So,
we love that challenge.
From when you get a script, what is the process in terms of, well, I know it obviously would differ from each project, because some, it might click right to you, and others you're like, oh, this isn't popping for me like I expected. What is the time frame normally from when you get a script to when you have the score ready to go?
It depends on the nature of the project. If it's a long-form project, it's usually about 2 months, I think, isn't it? 2 months, maybe 3 months to the actual end of the the project because it's a long form. I mean, we're talking about 72, 75 minutes, versus a series. In a series, we might have maybe 2 to 3 weeks per episode, and that's generous. Sometimes, it's really more like 2 weeks from the time we see it to the time we have to get the score ready to go. So it's a little more compressed for like series television.
And of course, we're talking about when we get the first cut, the first edited cut. So if we rewind all the way back to the script, in Killing Joke, our first meeting was looking at the script and sitting with Bruce Timm and looking about and reading these lyrics that would be part of this song that Mark Hamill would sing. And we were thinking, what is going to be happening in this film? This completely out there song that is just so maniacal and so fun at the same time. And that we were brought on at the script phase because obviously it has to be performed, the song has to be written, it has to then be animated, and so then we're brought on really early, but usually it's when everything is done, and then our job is to help amplify what's already there emotionally, or maybe if there are places that didn't quite get the feeling that the producer or director wanted for their project, we can help kind of add to that feeling, and sometimes it's just staying out of the way because the voice acting is so brilliant and the artwork is great that it doesn't even need the music.
I had wondered because with revisions and edits and things like that happen, I'm sure that you're like, oh well, that's not going to fit now, but that might work here now and that. So you have to really assemble it on the fly sometimes too, don't you?
It doesn't shift as much in animation as it does in live action.
Right.
Which is not to say that the editing isn't important, because we've seen the complete, the story come completely change where the editor can shift some scenes around or trim a little bit here and there. But I do think that in general the animation requires a lot more pre-planning because it has to be animated first.
Right. And they can't go back and reshoot movements and stuff like that. Because do you have a preference between, television, animated, a live action series versus that? Does it change the process of how you score it rather than, obviously the editing and the production is different.
Primarily, we're storytellers. We want to tell the story with the music. It doesn't matter if they're drawn on screen or if they're live actors. That's really our job. I think the main difference is a lot of times the pacing of a scene in live action can stretch out for 3 to 5 minutes, and that same amount of action in animation often is compressed in about a minute and a half. So there's other than the pacing though, there's much difference in the way we tell the story.
The genre. When we worked with Glenn Murakami on Teen Titans, it was all over the place. There was, he really wanted to bring in a bunch of different kinds of musical flavors and set us free to do kind of whatever we wanted to do, and it was just an enormous amount of fun. Young Justice Season 3, which we're working on now, I think the fans are going to go crazy. We can't reveal anything other than just to say it is way cool, and I'm just getting my hair standing up on my arms because I happen to hear a few of the vocal records, and it's the storytelling and everything is just brilliant. So music is going to really impact people.
I think for us as composers, the more variety that we have in our projects, the better it is for us creatively. So, if we're working on some live action and some animation and some long form and some series, and whatever we can do to mix it up and shake it up, it just makes everything better for all of us and for all the shows.
All right, so I'm going to ask a hard question here, and hopefully I won't put you guys on the spot too much for this. To close out, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot already about the Sub-Zero, but you had carte blanche, and they said, what do you want to do? What's your we'll keep it just animated. What would you want to do? If they said, any DC Universe character, story, whatever, we'll make a movie, you pick what you want to score, what would you do?
DC specifically?
Yeah, we'll go with... And then, of course, we'll open it up to anything non-DC if you want.
Look, honestly, I've already done what I want to do in a certain kind of way. There's plenty more to do, but one of my big dreams was to do the Superman origin story with Clark Kent and everything like that. And so when we got hired to do Superman the Animated Series, and Shirley Walker, the supervising composer, assigned for me to do the Clark Kent origin episode where he learns how to fly and becomes Superman,
That's good.
Look,
That's awesome.
there you go.
I think for me it's more of a general feeling. I think that when the stories help tell the story of what's going on in our universe right now, and our superheroes can influence the outcome by their actions, and also show how we as human beings who aren't superheroes can also be superheroes. Not so much about blowing things up and fighting, but more about the inner superhero. I think that for me is my dream, really, to have more of that kind of storytelling, because when we have those little sparks in stories that we've already scored, it just, for me, it absolutely floors me. And of course, to have the understanding that a big enough budget to hire a wonderful orchestra and have those musicians that are just the best musicians in the universe in Los Angeles, to have them breathe life into our score, that is always such a great thing for us.
And I wanted to thank you on that too, on a side note. I love synthesizers, child of the 80s and all that, but the orchestra has a definite place, especially when you're scoring projects. I'd much rather hear the rich sound. You just don't get it any other way.
Killing Joke, we had a wonderful string section on that, so maybe that's why I gave you the creeps, because
Yeah.
the best string players in the world.
My wife is actually, she kept going, what are you watching? It was a Saturday morning really early, and she just woken up and she's like, what is this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll tell you,
She was fixated though. She sat up and watched it from the start, so.
there's more room for music in animation, I think, than in any other genre. There's just, because of the way that it's drawn, and because of the fact that people are not real and alive, then there just seems to be more room for music to say more and be more present and be more a part of the story, especially in today's style of filmmaking. I think animation is a really wonderful home for music.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing what you have at 1 o'clock today.
And Chris's story. What
Oh,
do you want
Chris,
to score?
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
what do
sorry,
you want
Chris.
to score your dream project.
I kind of got to do what I've always wanted to do with Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Just
Right.
being able to use rock and drums and guitars and the orchestra all together. Yay! But if I had a chance to do something again, I would love to be able to go back and work on the original Glenn Murakami Teen Titans, because I think there's still so many more stories that he wanted to tell, and it could be, that project has such a special place in my heart, and it would be so fun to revisit that.
Wonderful. Thank